Hi everyone, I am up here in the corner, and the first thing I want to say in these videos is that I am completely fine. My doctors have quarantined me at home because of my autoimmune disease, so I'm at a much higher risk of infection, so I'm not allowed to leave the house. But I'm not sick, I'm okay. In fact, my greatest danger is probably this, how much my cat is judging me for staying home and taking selfies. But in the meantime, I want you to know what exactly our upcoming classes are going to look like. They're going to start with a short video like this, should be less than 10 minutes, and then some kind of activity or discussion y'all will do with the sub, and then an assignment to submit on PowerSchool. And as you are going, I'll be commenting on and grading those PowerSchool assignments so that we can stay in touch and up to date and hopefully not actually lose any time on school stuff. So, right this moment, I need you to get out a Word document or a piece of paper, whatever you prefer to take notes with. So, pause this video and do that whenever you need to keep taking notes. Right now, get out whatever you're gonna take notes with. All right, and the first thing I need you to write down is a complete guess. How many countries do you think there are in Central and South America? I'll give you a couple seconds. Just write a number. How many countries? If you wrote 21 or 33, those are both correct. There's 21 countries in the actual mainland of Central America and South America. And if you count the Caribbean island nations, that'll bring it up to 33. Those 33 countries all got there somehow. So today we're going to talk about some of the revolutions that got them there. Just like we've talked about the American Revolution, the French Revolution, those kicked off an era called the Age of Revolutions, and now we're going to look at what did that look like in Latin America. Before we talk about Latin America, though, we need to talk about who were the Europeans that owned that land and those people at the time. If you remember, all the way back to 2 days ago when we were talking about Napoleon, and one of Napoleon's big defeats was in what was called the Peninsular Campaign. That is the peninsula you're actually looking at on this map right now. The Iberian Peninsula is Spain and Portugal, and it's right next to France, as you can see, and just north of Africa on the Mediterranean. Spain and Portugal have never gotten along. They have been in huge competition just about as long as they've both existed. So, in the Americas, they were really competing for who got which colonies. Then Napoleon happened. We had the French Revolution, we had Napoleon, and Europe got pretty busy trying to defend themselves from France. That gave all their colonies a little wiggle room to start staging revolutions and getting their independence back. So, here's Spain and Portugal in Europe. Let's look for a second at Spain and Portugal in the Americas. The orange on this map was area owned by Portugal, the entire Amazon basin, which is now Brazil. The green was all owned by Spain. Essentially, Spain and Portugal got together and drew a line down the middle and said everything to the east, that's going to be Portuguese, whatever exists to the west, that'll be Spanish. The tiny blue parts were owned by the tiny blue parts were owned by France, but France mostly focused on their Canadian holdings and Louisiana holdings, so they weren't quite as active in the Central and South America scene. What we're looking at right now could also be a map of which languages are still spoken here even today. Brazil still speaks Portuguese, and everywhere in green still speaks Spanish. Everywhere in blue still speaks French. So, all of these places we're looking at some point were owned by Europeans, and at some point got their independence from those people. So how did they do that? That's what we're looking at. And today we're going to focus on 4 of the biggest Latin American revolutions. And those are going to be Haiti, which we've already talked about a little, Mexico, Brazil, and Bolivia. Let's start with the one we already know a little bit about, is Haiti. Haiti was one of the places that was owned by France. And the French had their revolution, and they were distracted. France was distracted with fighting itself, and they were still worried about Canada and Louisiana, and all that was still theirs to worry about too. And Haiti was a slave colony. It was populated primarily by slaves who were working on coffee or sugar plantations and treated very, very poorly. They revolted and actually succeeded. They were one of the only slave rebellions that completely succeeded in their goal of becoming independent. So once Haiti gets its independence, now we've seen the Enlightenment thinkers lead to the American Revolution and the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution. All of those have successfully revolted against the old world order, and we're going to start to see more and more people think, they did it, why can't we? So it starts with Haiti. Then we're going to go to Mexico. Spain sees France's revolution and raises them and does their own revolution. So in 1820, Spain is going through its own troubles, not only with Napoleon, but with their own infighting. And Mexico declares its independence. This has some fighting, for sure, but is not actually a particularly long and difficult fight. Mexico gains its independence from Spain fairly easily, and then continues fighting with America for the next several decades. That's Mexico. It's pretty short and sweet. Brazil gets a little more complicated. So, while Napoleon was invading Spain and Portugal, while Napoleon was having his peninsular campaigns in Iberia, the Portuguese royal family actually fled and escaped to their holdings in Brazil. So for 14 whole years, Portugal was in Rio de Janeiro. The entire Portuguese government was run out of Brazil. So after that, once the royal family could finally return to Portugal, Brazil was not willing to give up all the independence that they had gained. They weren't willing to just go back to being a colony that was ruled from far away. And they were unique because they were one of the only peaceful revolutions. They got their independence pretty peacefully and willingly, and that's partly because they had become more friendly with Portugal because Portugal's government had to live there. So far we've seen Haiti, we've seen Mexico, we've seen Brazil, and now we're going to go to the biggest Latin American revolutions, which were led by Simón Bolívar. This guy saw the Portuguese gain their freedom, and he decided that all of South America that spoke Spanish should also take their freedom. He was a brilliant general and did manage to free all of Spanish-speaking South America, but he did not manage to unite them all into one country. The country of Bolivia ended up being named after him, and all those Spanish-speaking countries did keep their independence from Spain, but they did not actually unite like he had always hoped. But by the end of Bolivar, now the New World is basically completely free of Spanish and Portuguese influence. Let's take a second and review that. Sorry. So we have the Enlightenment. basic human rights, democracy, all these new thoughts about what is the point of government, why should it run. We have the Enlightenment, the American Revolution, the French Revolution. As we know, the French Revolution leads to Napoleon, and Napoleon keeps Europe busy for a lot of years. While Europe's a little distracted, Latin America manages to completely rebel against their colonial owners. Haiti frees itself from France, Mexico from Spain, Brazil from Portugal, and all of Spanish-speaking South America under Simón Bolívar also gets freed from Spain. Despite the fact that they were owned by a bunch of different European powers, they all take inspiration from these same Enlightenment thinkers and this same idea of, well, the Americans can do it, the French can do it, we can do it too, and they totally succeed. While I was planning on doing this lecture in class, we were going to watch a short video. I don't know if you guys can access Khan Academy on your school laptops, so please try looking up this video and let me know if it works. If you just Google Khan Academy Latin American Independence, find a link, see if you can access it. If not, don't worry about it. If you can, though, watch it. It really clarifies some of the stuff we've just talked about. So pause this video, see if that works. And here's the last part of your job today. The reading in our textbook about Latin American Wars of Independence is going from page 681 to 686. I want you to read that. It's pretty short. And answer these questions up on the board. Sorry about that. These questions up on the board. Page 704, 9, 10, and 11, and page 711, 1, 2, and 3. Really short and sweet. Should not be too challenging, but it is homework if you don't finish. I want you to type these answers and submit them on PowerSchool. I know we usually handwrite. We're not doing that as long as I am quarantined. So you will type these answers, submit them on a PowerSchool Dropbox. If you go to the Activities toolbar and then click on Assignments, there's a Dropbox for Latin American Revolutions questions. So you'll answer these 6 questions and submit it on there. Please email me or comment if you have any questions. And next week we will start talking about, okay, we've had some revolutions. What's the world do now? Take care of yourselves, wash your hands, watch out for each other, and stay awesome. I will see you next week. Thanks.